When to show intent of the cold approach. Now, I think this is an integral part of game that a lot of guys they get in the cold approach and they really want to show intent. This is where the whole idea about how do I transition from having a conversation into letting them know that I'm interested in them. This is a very integral part of what cold approach is, which is showing intent and not getting stuck trying to figure out how to transition, how to avoid making it too clunky. And ultimately, if you don't transition ever, you end up in the friend zone, don't you? So I'm going to discuss this, and I'm just going to give it a real simplistic way of looking at it. There's two different types of girls, really, and we can classify them in two different types of girls, and based on those two different types of girls, how you should behave. Let's just put it that way. How much intent you need to show. I might even throw in, depending on your mate value, the mate value differential, depending on those two factors as well. I might make it a little bit more complex for YouTube today. But before we kick it off, I'm Dave, and this channel is dedicated to giving you no BS novel dating advice for the modern man. We are coaching and teaching guys the sweet art of cold approach, which is approaching girls in the street, in clubs, cafes, malls, anywhere. And if you're a single guy out there that is struggling to get laid, you don't have a girlfriend, this is probably the service for you. If Tinder's not working for you, go to my website, sign up and do some coaching with myself. So, intent. How and when to show intent. So really there's two different types of girls, really. There's girls that are socially aware, which means they understand your culture, they understand you. No matter where you are in the world, this advice can be copy pasted no matter where you are in the entire world. Does she understand your culture? Does she understand you? Does she speak the same language as you, etc.? Which means she's socially aware. She would understand a lot more than, say, an immigrant that can't really speak your language, or someone who is from overseas, doesn't understand the culture. Okay? So there's really two types of girls. So for instance, if you're an American, right, or you're an Australian, or you're a British, someone who speaks perfect English, who is born in Australia, Britain, or Australia, or the United States, England, they speak your language. They were born and bred. Usually, say, let's just say, if I'm a white guy, a white Australian girl that speaks perfect English, understands the culture. The amount of intent that I would need to show a self-aware, culturally aware, and English-speaking Australian girl is very low. She would understand that this is a cold approach. She would make the assumption, because she's socially aware, she understands what's going on, unless she has some sort of mental illness or something like that, or she's like got something wrong with her, which I don't recommend you approach those girls anyway. The type of girl that would understand you would understand that this is a cold approach. Now, unless you have the worst game in the world and you cannot even have a conversation with a girl properly, then she might not understand, or she might look down on you. Okay, so in general, this is general advice, if you speak to someone that has the same language as you and understands the culture, this girl should understand that this is a pickup. You don't need to show intent, because all you're going to do is be coming across as a bit of a dummy, because she's instantly going to go, well, of course you're trying to pick me up. I don't know you. You just cold approached me. You're clearly running some game here. Unless she's extremely unattractive and no one ever approaches her, and then you probably need to pick up your game. If she's attractive, guys are approaching her. She understands the deal, okay? So let's just make that clear. The other end of the spectrum, in say Australia or England, In England, it's probably like Eastern European girls. You know, they're going for the Russians or the Ukrainians or the Polish girls that don't really have a proper grasp of the culture or the language, which a lot of newbie guys would be doing. And this is why a lot of my advice is really catered towards punching up, and it is more of an advanced method. But if you're in Australia and you're going for like girls that are, you might need to show a little bit more intent if the girl is from overseas and her English level isn't that great. Some people call that going a little bit more direct. You see? So the more intent, you need to show more intent, the less aware, socially aware, culturally aware, and her language, the language barrier is. So the higher the barrier, so the less likely she is to have the same cultural background as you and less likely to have the same language as you, the more intent you need to show, because she's just not really going to understand necessarily what's going on. So you have to go a little bit more, I would say, direct. Okay? So if she's fully aware of who you are, speaks English, understands the culture, you should need to show less intent. She's going to kind of click and understand what's going on. Now, we grab that, we could probably put out the four quadrants here, and we could say, you know, we could probably map this out. I'm just thinking about this on the fly. The other two quadrants that we can look at is whether she is above your mate value or below your mate value. Is she more attractive than you, or is she less attractive than you? Are you punching up or are you punching down? Now, we could also maybe put that on the four quadrants as well. We could figure out where she is and then figure out what level intent that you would need to show depending on those factors. Now, generally, you should be punching up. Now, if you're punching up, you need to show less intent because you're more likely to be getting rejected. Showing more intent too early, which complicates things. If you're showing too much intent to a girl where you're punching up, you're more likely to get rejected faster. You need to build up some rapport. So if you're punching up, you need to show a little bit less intent. And if she's beneath you, punching down, you need to show a little bit more intent. And so this is why when I'm talking about indirect game, I'm punching up. A lot of people, they don't necessarily understand this, but when you get into game, you understand it a little bit more. The more you're punching up, the less intent you need to be showing. Okay, so that's probably the simplistic way. This also does. So if you're aiming for a girl that understands your culture, is more attractive than you, has a good grasp of the language, less intent is better. They'll buy you more time to get a higher mate value girl. Now, if she doesn't fully understand your culture, doesn't really grasp the English language, and is beneath your mate value, then you need to show a little bit more intent, because she's not really going to understand, and she's also going to look up at you and think, oh, you're better than her, and so therefore you need to go more direct. And this is why a lot of the direct guys need to show a lot more intent. You can kind of mix these two together. You need to show more intent when you're punching down, because they're not necessarily going to take you seriously. It's like Justin Bieber talking to a 2 in the street. The 2 in the street's going to want a photo and assume that Justin Bieber would never want to date her, so Justin Bieber would literally have to tell her, no, I want to sleep with you. I really do. She's like, really? I can't believe it. No, really, I really want to sleep. Can we sleep together tonight? It would be harder for Justin Bieber to sleep with a 2 than it would be a 10, because the 10's going to just assume it. Justin Bieber's going to just invite her around, right? So think about it from those points of views. And this is why, but then obviously if you're getting into game and you're a newbie, then spending a lot of time figuring out how to just get into approaches and go through all the basics and going direct. As a newbie, I totally understand why a lot of guys would get into that. But we're talking more when you start to really know what's going on. This type of advice is a little bit more helpful. How much intent should you be showing? So, I think hopefully that's been helpful. Give me a thumbs up, share it around if this makes sense to you. And if you're keen on doing some coaching, clearly I'm an old, experienced guy that's been in the community a long time. This type of advice probably conflicts with a lot of what you get normally. But with experience, you'll start to learn that this is the right way to do things. And you'll understand what I'm saying over time. So if you want to get some coaching with me, top link in the description. Check out my website, One Man's Life Mission, and I'll see you guys in the next video.